Well, yesterday about 20 of us, a little more than 20 of us, went to Duke Ellington High School to hear their performance of the Black Nativity, one that's close in this neighborhood. The script was written by Langston Hughes, who, and if you've been at Busboys and Poets, that was his area, and the Langston Hughes way is close at hand, and it was wonderful. It was inspiring to hear this group of young people perform extraordinarily well, to tell the story in gospel tones, in gospel rhythms and cadences, with gospel music. It had me revved up, really, in a lot of ways. I woke up this morning, not so much retaining their tune, but singing one of our own hymnals, Soon and Very Soon. We're going to see the King. Do you know that one? You recall that one? It's, if you want to see it, it's on 439. It's a good place to start. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King. Now, if you want, you can do the hand signs with me too. We can even do a little this. Gets in the spirit of the day. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. Hallelujah, hallelujah, we're going to see the King. Very good. Some of you can multitask. That was the test. It's not hard for me to imagine John the Baptist in today's gospel singing that tune. Soon and very soon, we're going to see the King. It was a testimony to his resilience that he could be in prison, sitting in a cell or whatever conditions he was. He had been arrested because he had had the audacity to go to the king and tell him that it was against the law, or at least improper, that he should be having an affair with his sister-in-law. And for that, the king was so incensed that he threw John into jail for doing his job. I guess he was a prophet. That was what he did. And yet, here he was, a man of great expectations, of expectancy, saying, soon and very soon we're going to see the king. And he hears words that something is happening down in Galilee, down in another part of the country, where away from Jerusalem, where there's somebody, a Messiah, who's going around and doing things and saying things that are getting people revved up and wired up and expected that something is going to happen and happen soon. And so he sends some messengers. You know, it's not, prison then was not like today. It was a porous system. People had to support their prisoner. If you didn't have family or friends to bring you food, you didn't eat. So there was an ability to move in and out and convey and communicate. And he sent his messengers, and they went and saw Jesus and said, John the Baptist has sent us, and are you the one? Or do we have to wait for another? Because it's soon and very soon we're going to see the King. Are you the one? Or do we need to wait for yet another? Seems like a pretty straightforward question, doesn't it? It's either or true or false, or yes or no. But Jesus doesn't provide that simple, direct yes or no, or wait for somebody else, or I'm the one. He says, tell them what you see. Tell them what you see. And what did they see? That the blind could see. That the deaf could hear. That the lame could walk. That the list goes on, that the dead, even the dead, are raised. And the poor, the beggars, have good news that's given to them. That's what they were seeing, and he simply says, go and tell them. Now, the commentators would say what John really wanted to see was somebody who was going to come in and there'd be a coup, and Herod would be gone, the king that had detained him. The bad guys would be pushed out, the good guys would be installed in power, the bad guys would be in prison, and the good guys, like John, would be released from prison. That would be a good thing. But instead, you have this litany of things that are happening. And when you think of the king, are those the things that you expect to see? That the blind receive sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised? Are those that the poor receive good news? Is that what you look for in your leader, in your king, in your president, in your boss? Or what is it that you expect to see in the King of Kings? These things? Or that muscular power that comes and imposes order, the right order, the good order? Which do you think it is? And yet, Jesus is not dodging the question. He's really going back to things that people have said long before, the great expectations. Today in the psalm, happy are those whose hope is in the Lord, who made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is them, who keeps faith forever, who executes justice for the oppressed, who gives food to the hungry. The Lord sets prisoners free. The Lord opens the eyes of the blind. The Lord loves the righteous. The Lord watches over the strangers. He upholds the orphan and the widow. And then Isaiah, some years later, the psalmist from the Jesus prayer book, he would have grown up memorizing that one. He would have known that by heart, and he probably knew the words of Isaiah as well. Be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. He will come with vengeance. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. Is that what you look for in your kings? Is that what you expect of royalty? That's the question Jesus asks when he turns the table and he says, well, when you went out there, what did you expect to see? What were you looking for? What did you expect? Somebody dressed in soft clothing and a rich Italian wool suit with patent leather shoes delivered in a bulletproof long stretch limo? Is that what you were looking for? He asked. Or were you looking for a prophet? Somebody who would be maybe a troublemaker or make people uncomfortable like John did with Herod that got him in so much trouble. What were you looking for when you were looking for these marks of royalty so that you would know that the one you were expecting was in fact here, the one that you wanted? What were you looking for? Were these the things? And the people, how did they respond? How do you respond to that? The gospel is that the king comes and those who can't see begin to see. And those who are unable to hear begin to hear. Now, I don't know about you, but I've tried to convince people to see things that are plain as day in my sight, and it's a hard thing to do. Or can you get people to listen to you all the time? Is that your capacity? Or have you had the experience that no matter how hard you try to make yourself heard, your words go unheard? Or the ability to fix somebody, to wash a leper clean, to touch somebody and give them healing so that they're welcomed back into the community? Are those things that you have done or that you have received? The gospel is that these royal qualities that Jesus is talking about come into our lives and touch us and do those wonderful, they set us free, and when we're feeling poorly, they bring us good news. Well, we're not living in royalty. These are not royal times. We live in a democracy where everybody's a king, or at least a little king. Isn't that the democratic theory? We're all kings. We're all royalty. And so this gospel comes to us with another edge too. If you're royalty, what's expected of you? And in this tradition that Jesus pulls out from Isaiah and the Psalms and that he's repeating to those around him, here's the message for you, you little kings and princes and princesses and queens. What are you doing to help somebody who can't see begin to see and find their way or the one who hasn't heard the good news that's meant for them in their life? How have you helped them to hear that? Or the lame. Matthew is writing shortly again after this war that destroyed Jerusalem. And as I think about the veterans that came back from Afghanistan or Iraq or back to Vietnam, as I see this, the lame shall walk. Well, if you go up the Crescent Trail some days, you're going to see the lame in three-wheel hand-operated bicycles being accompanied by people who have all their limbs working to make sure they can ride safely on the trail. They are helping the lame to roll, not just walk. And what have you done? Or how do you bring good news to the poor, to the beggar? What have you done with that $5 gift that we ask that people share with somebody so that a little bit of good news might come their way? Are we people who bear that good news to the beggar? We have the ability. The question is not who's in power. The question is, what do you do with your power? And we all have power, maybe to different degrees, one from another. But we are all empowered. We are all royalty. We are all kings with Jesus. And so when Jesus comes to us and says, look around you and see what's happening, the day that we look for is one where the kings go out and they touch people. And people begin to see and to hear and to walk and to sing and to shout. Where the poor, the Greek word literally means the hunched over, can straighten up and have a sense of God's image working in them, of dignity. That's what Jesus is saying to John. That's how Jesus identifies the king. It's not because the king has a monopoly on the power, but the royal characteristics of people who reach out and touch each other, embrace one another, and bring healing and well-being and a sense of joy in life. This is not a sad text. It's so often read as a morally challenging text. It's a text of joy. Because if you can imagine the veteran that you knew who came home from war and was damaged, and all that was set aside that they could live, or the person who was dependent on a charitable gift finds a job at last and goes to work and is prospering, there is joy in that life and in that day. Today is Gaudete Sunday. It is a day for joy. Let us rejoice and be glad in it because the King is coming. And the King brings joy to everyone. This is the word of the Lord.